has a bachelor's degree from Chulalongkorn in econometrics, which I actually studied. It took one semester and that was enough. When I studied economics, I said, I'm not going to be I'm not going to be a statistician or a mathematician. And also has a master's degree from the National University of Singapore in economics and a master's degree from the United States in Maryland. And I'm not going to go on with a longer introduction. I'm just going to turn it over to Naris because we have a pretty dense program and a lot of information to disclose. It's going to go for 1 hour, and then we will do maybe some brief housekeeping announcements. We'll do Q&A, and then we'll do some housekeeping announcements. Okay, please show your appreciation to Naris in the customary way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Douglas. Good evening, everyone. So I'm just gonna put water right here. If I'm gonna have a Marco Rubio moments of reaching out for water, so keep it that. It's a pleasure to be here. First of all, I'd like to thank the American Chamber of Commerce and British Chamber of Commerce for giving me opportunity for me not to educate. Somebody use the word educate, I don't need that. To share. And before I go forward any further, let me introduce myself a little bit. Kun Douglas has already done that for me, but I'm currently working at the TMB Bank. We are a medium-sized bank. You've probably been aware of our presence a little bit. First of all, we are not owned by military. So only 2% owned, but it was a legacy, so take it as TMB. I'm the head of TMB Analytics, which is a data analytics center of excellence that work for the whole bank-wide business units and supporting units in doing the machine learning, application of machine learning, AI, and data analytics that helps improve customer life, improve or optimize process. Before that, I was in the capital markets. Capital markets in the bank is basically not trading stocks, but FX options, derivatives, and then market risk before that. So this is me, and what we do is for TMB Analytics. Let me just advertise myself a little bit here. So either it's going to be improving customer understanding using machine learning or optimized process. There's a lot of things that we can do in the bank that use data analytics as application, but that's not the goal today. Okay, so that's about me. Before I go forward again, let me just test the water a little bit of the backgrounds of who you are. Since this is an event organized by the legal committees, so are you guys lawyers or related to legal services? Yes, sir. So very few. Okay. Are you guys must be member of the Chamber of Commerce, right? So are you guys doing services or export, import, manufacturing trades? Which one? Say for manufacturing. Okay, very little. All the above. You're too big to not to exclude anything. So. The background of this room is not per se interest in the legal perspective.
Yes.
Okay. So we touch upon that for sure. We touch upon that for sure. Okay. So basically, but export, import, international trades and commerce related to you guys?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Definitely. We have applications of that. And you might ask, how is it that bank employees, which by the way got forbidden by the Bank of Thailand to touch anything related to cryptocurrency, which has recently been told by the BOT governors. One employee from Thai Bank is going to talk about cryptocurrency, right? I mean, what I could be contributing to this. My point is that it's not about, because I think you have heard the news and read the news. There's a lot of crash and burns in cryptocurrency markets. So it's not me as bank employee coming out and bashing cryptocurrency. That's not the session for that. If you want to look for that, this is not it. So we want to spin it off, like the underlying platform that drive the development of cryptocurrency. How would that be related to international trade and commerces, and how would it impact legal services as a whole? So, talking from the back foot to the talking backwards. Okay, what I want to emphasize today is just basically 3 keywords. Of course, there's going to be cryptocurrency. There's going to be the word blockchain, in which I will define and explain a little bit more. But there's the last keyword that I would like to emphasize to you is the smart contract. And if you're legal service professionals, this has potential to disrupt and change everything. The key is not about cryptocurrency and its volatility. You know what that too well. I don't need to re-emphasize. The point is the potential that can be unleashed using smart contract, which is sort of a cryptocurrency is in a certain shape or form another type of smart contract. But you're going to see later the application of smart contract in wider scenarios, in business setup, real use cases. Okay. So this is the outline. I'm gonna, since I cannot laser point it because it absorbed the laser, so my apologies. So I would be doing this pointing, awkward pointing a little bit, and I would be doing a lot of Marco Rubio move too. So just to keep you interested in me. And since I'm the only person that stands between you and booze and food, so bear with me a little bit. I would be on time, on point. And if you have any questions, we have Q&A time afterwards. So we'll talk about the fundamental cryptocurrency, and then sort of look at the market landscape of cryptocurrency, and then we're going to delve into the economics of cryptocurrency. See whether is it currency, is it an asset, what is it in its current shape and form. We are not going to delve too much into technicalities and the IT aspect of things here. We're going to deal a lot more on practicalities of business cases. That's what I like to emphasize more. Okay. And then of course, at this hour, you cannot talk or not mentioning the ICO, initial coin offering, which is pretty much a fad now. There's a first Thai listed company that somewhat partially successfully launched the ICO and raised fund to it. Is it for real? And what's the difference between ICO and IPO? You've already been fully aware of what is the initial public offering when it comes to stock issuance. What are the differences? So let's compare it side by side. By the way, am I talking to you guys good? Okay, gotcha. Okay. Then regulatory rules. Of course, it was very, very negative at the onset, but now they start to turn the heads on a little bit, being more cooperative. Okay. And then we will discuss future cryptocurrency, in which we think it's relevant and practical. Again, like an old man, I would just re-emphasize that it's not about banks bashing cryptocurrency because it's going to take away business from us. I would be a dinosaur saying this thing is not relevant. I can bet you that this thing is going to be in for good, but in a different shapes, forms, and applications. Okay, and then we will take a little bit of a future implication to legal services. If there's a advent of a lot of practical smart contract, who would make lawyers' job being more difficult or easy, would replace them. So we looked at those things. So let's start off with the technologies underlying the fundamental things. The cryptocurrency is available because of technologies. And if you look at the Moore's law in terms of financial service evolutions, you can see over time from 1200s, okay, before banks existed. And if not mistaken, banks start to become come into existence at 1400 in Italy somewhere, the concept of banking as a whole. So you can see 200 years apart. And then there's double entry bookkeeping, 1400 checks start to come in. Then there's banknote, bill of exchange concept, trade bills start to come in 1600s. And you can see all these evolutions, ranging from those dated concept of financial service to the most recent ones, such as, for example, telegraph, securitizations, wire transfer. It's become more recent. So the growth rate has become exponential when it comes to financial service disruption, especially if I zoom in this area. Sorry, awkward pointing. Then you have this from 50 to 2010. A lot of things happen. You have credit card in 1950, first time. Then more frequent this thing gonna happen, the innovations, the disruptions. You have ATMs in before 70s, it was 60 something. Chip cards, online banking start, I think by JP Morgan, if I'm not mistaken, in 1980s. So that's first online banking. So it's more frequent, more disruptions. P2P lending, crowdfunding. We're not going to talk about the fintech today, but things are moving fast because of technologies. And what technologies underline that related to cryptocurrency? I basically list out the key 4 foundations of new technologies that induce fintech and others derivatives of fintech, such as cryptocurrency. You have AI, you have big data analytics, you have distributed computing, in which you can store data cheaper and compute much faster with less infrastructures. So that's one of the things. And then, of course, encryptions or cryptography. It's a digital money, right? Cryptocurrency. So there's need to be a limitations of supply. If not, then you can regenerate it. If you don't encrypt it, anybody can reproduce it, and that's when it stops storing its value, right? So basically the concept of evolution of cryptography also enables technologies that is related to cryptocurrency today, and of course mobile internet access. The key thing that's relevant for us today is the distributed computing and cryptography. So more computations, more evenly spread storage of data and computations. And then on top of that you have encryptions. So encoding the contract, and then that's when you can produce a lot of things. A lot of applications, okay, for payment settlement, for digital currencies, one of them, for back office recording, for automated transactions, smart contract, I mentioned. We go into details, go fast. Okay. So let's start with what is underlying platform or technologies, if you will, for cryptocurrency. It's the so-called blockchain concept. I think everybody is fully aware of this, so I could go faster.
Yeah, you could go fast.
I could go fast. Okay. So basically, it's decentralized, network-based. Would like to emphasize network-based because data storage is spread out in different nodes. That is market participants. So all nodes is getting the same stack of data. So it makes it a little more difficult to hack, right? If you're going to hack it, you have to hack all the nodes. And it's sort of a fail-safe. If one fails, not like our server at your company, if one fails, then if you don't have parallel backup, you're going to be somewhat doomed. But this one, if one fails, the rest will go on because it's a network-based. So what is basically distributed ledger technologies of blockchain, in a easy way to call it. Decentralized, network-based, and you have encryptions, and then you have the participants of each node, so the networks validate the transactions. So it's sort of a decentralized system without third party, without the social planner, without the central authority to control it. And the other nice thing about this concept of blockchain is it's immutable, or in a way you can call it irreversible. Once you put it in a block and then you chain it up, and then you encrypt it, then it's not backward adjustable. So you can see whatever happens. If everybody agrees to it, that validates it and pass it, then it's going to stay on. So it doesn't mean that you cannot adjust transactions. It just means that you will see historical records of the transactions. Basically, this is a concept of distributed ledging. Ledging or ledger system of bookkeeping. It could be anything. Digital contract, it could be your inventories, it could be social data. So lots of wide applications on this. Okay, I would just go over this and re-emphasize that there's no single authority that controls, maintains, or monitors the ledgers. Okay, so basically, these technologies allow the players or participants to sort of skip the role of the third party. So they don't need to have intermediaries to validate it, to as a master, say, controller of the games or anything, if you want to put it like that. So distributed ledger technologies of blockchain is sort of being adopted quite significantly worldwide. 80% of the bank do something about blockchains, not cryptocurrency, but the blockchain itself. So this is key technologies that banks are really adopting. And certain banks, they are looking at it too. And a lot of consortium. You're going to see on later that this thing is not going to work if you don't work in consortium way. If you only are one bank and trying to do your blockchain or cryptocurrency or whatever smart contract is, if you don't have any other players participated, it makes no sense to populate the system. Okay, real quick. So basically, how it works. Well, this is sort of somewhat technical, but let me try to put it in a very easy terms. If you have any transactions, it could be a will, it could be a purchase of lands or whatever other objects. You have two parties that agree into a transactions, then it creates a block, the so-called block. This is starting of the word blockchains. So the transaction is represented online as block. Then it's sent into different nodes. So this one goes into the full network of participants. The block got verified. Okay. And it needs to verify because it's encrypted. If it's not encrypted, then anybody could verify it. Okay. So before executions, there's encryptions. So this is basically the concept of blockchains. Any questions so far? Okay. Now, not going to delve too much into technicalities, but I want to introduce the concept of smart contract. Anybody here doesn't not familiarized with the smart contract concept? Okay, yes sir. It's basically a digital contract that automates and guarantee the performance of a great variety of obligations without the need for central authority, legal system, or enforcement mechanisms. So basically, it's a digital contract that if the clause of condition is satisfied, then the contract is executed. So basically, a digital contract that is fully automated if the condition is satisfied within your blockchain or network system. Okay. Potential applications is a lot. Okay. Transfer, settlement of funds, making payment for goods, services, property, land ownership could be done through smart contract. Say, for example, insurance contract. If I say, for example, of flood insurance. So if there is flood, then insurance got paid out, the premium got paid out, right? The insured amount got paid out. So how do you digitalize this? So there's going to be sort of a digital contract that measure the flood level. Say it could be physically. Say for example, you put a meter in it, and if the water hits, satisfy the conditions, then it sends a signal. So contract is satisfied. So premium must be paid out. I'm sorry, the insured amount must be paid out. Okay. That's one example. The other example is you guys wear Fitbit or all those health tracking on your wrist. So one example is that insurance contract could be drafted based on your behavior, right? More active one pay less premium because they're more healthy, more likely. So this one could be a digital contract that measures your activeness in life and then send data back to verify premium. So the premium can be totally risk-based pricing or risk-sensitive pricing or behavior-sensitive pricing. So that's another application of it. Okay. So smart contract is digital contract that will be executed if the certain conditions are satisfied. Very simple. So cryptocurrency, this gives us all a limit to set it up. What it is basically a type of smart contract. Basically based on decentralizations. It could be created by anybody. Okay. So it doesn't need to be Bitcoin or Ethereum. It could be any system. Okay. It's basically by its concept anonymous, and it can facilitate microtransaction because it doesn't involve a lot of transactional costs. Everything is decentralized. There's no intermediaries like banks to charge the fees. We go into more detail later. Okay. The thing about cryptocurrency is that it's not fail-proof. You can hack it, people can hack it, but I just told you that it's distributed, it's evenly distributed. If you're going to hack it all, right? So it should be secure then. Of course, it's not very transparent because it's anonymous. But it's hackable, and there's a lot of hacking incidences. The biggest one is the coin check hack. Basically, my point is that the hack can be very detrimental to the cryptocurrency use or environment. But when they hack it, they don't actually hack it at the blockchain node. They hack it at the e-wallet parts of things in which they store all the values. So they don't directly hack the blockchains. They hack the byproduct of blockchains in which you store the final values of money. It could be, say, for example, e-wallets. So this is how they hack it. I will not go into details so much. So it's a digital currency. Cryptocurrency, digital currency. Bitcoin is one of them. How do you make it valuable? How to make it able to store values? That's because there's limited supply. And say, for example, Bitcoin, there's a limited supply of 21 million Bitcoins now in the system. Of course, in order to verify transactions. Okay. So when there's verifications happening, those who provide service of verifications or provide is actually basically solving the encryptions. Okay, verification, solving encryptions, they get a return as coin. Now this sounds a little bit sort of self-sustained in itself, sort of like a Ponzi scheme, right? You are dealing with digital currency. You are part of the system that's called miner, the one who actually decrypt the codes, and then in returns of that services of decrypting the codes or basically validating transactions because it's encrypted, you get a small portions of coins back. So this is a bit of you could look at it as a bit of a Ponzi scheme, but that's all boils down to one question. What can you do with digital currency, right? If at the end it's just assume digital contract, it doesn't mean anything. If it cannot be converted into goods and services, or cannot be converted into cash. So it must be then that these things should be able to be converted into goods and services or into cash in order to retain value, or else what you're going to get is a Bitcoin that it's working for a specific things within the internet. Say, for example, if you are say playing online games, you get the coins which basically give you sort of items in the game, so that's how kids look at it. So coming back to this, mining is not costless. Of course, there is great cost. This engine, the hardware that used to mine it, and also the electricity bill, which is quite a lot. This is basically the cost to mine Bitcoin in states of the United States, in each state. So there's going to be one who provides decryptions to each transactions. Okay. Now, market landscape. I laid it out. This is basically worldwide. But you can see the more red, the country is more active on cryptocurrency. United States, Canada, Russia, China, Australia, South Africa. This Europe is somewhat as well, but most active is American market and Chinese markets when it comes to cryptocurrency. So this is landscape in terms of global adoptions. Now, in terms of market caps, how much or how large is the size of cryptocurrency? Okay. Now, I tell you, what you heard most is what digital currency you heard the most? Bitcoins. Bitcoins, and then there's a second place, Ethereum, and then there's Ripple, right? Basically, Bitcoin is one type of digital currency. Its share was significant, but over time, from 2013 to 2017, you can see that the share of Bitcoins dropped significantly. Okay, from about 80% each to just 40%. So there are other digital currency because anyone can create it. But if you have big enough ecosystem that anybody want to participate with you, you're gonna get tractions, get volumes, and then more adoptions of your currencies. So this is a game of winner takes all in a way. It's like this current economy. Okay, like Amazon, if you win, you're gonna take it all. So share Bitcoins is a little bit being phased out somewhat by other digital currencies. In terms of number of cryptocurrencies worldwide, in 2013 there's only 66 cryptocurrencies, but since anybody can create it, but if you have enough tractions and transactions, you can maintain it, it becomes a fad. 2017 there's 1,300 cryptocurrency worldwide. So it's quite a lot. So anybody can create it. So it's basically create money out of encryptions and digital hardware, right? For market caps, say Ethereum is pretty big as well. 80 billion US dollar. Then you have Ripples, Bitcoin Cash, and Litecoins. These are top 5. So winner takes all. Basically, top 5 takes 75%. And how big is it? Of 424 billion worldwide, the value of it. I mean, to put it in perspectives, let us compare that 424 billions with, say, GDP of a country. Basically, it can actually buy goods and services within 1 year, because it's GDP constant, of UAE, Hong Kong. Its GDP is 380, 330, respectively. It can buy Toyota for, very simple, 4 times size of Sarah's. So to put that into perspective, how big it is. Of course, it's very small portions, but still, if you take 2% out of US economy, in which its GDP stood at 18 trillion, that's not insignificant, but it's still not significant. Okay, it's not as big as the news go, but there's some volume in it, substantial volumes. We talk about this market landscape. There's Bitcoin, there's Ethereum. look at the price, of course, there's a lot of this in the news. You start from $317 US dollars in, say, 2014. This is the price of Bitcoin specifically. It rose up to about $19,000 per unit of Bitcoins. Huge, steep rise in price when everybody take this up as a bit of a hobby. Frankly speaking, right? If you talk to kids these days, they probably tell you that they invest in it. So, and it would take things up for this. So the value is going up like crazy, but the thing is, it is very volatile. It's very sensitive to event. It's very sensitive to even just comments of a major bankers. Say, for example, Jamie Dimons, JP Morgan's, budget, and they drop, and then he's change his stance later on. The point is, it's very volatile. If you bought one Bitcoin 3 years ago, you get about 6,000% return. So I can ask you simple questions. Of course, you can look at this. We're not going to discuss whether it's currency or not yet. But would you be able to put your retirement fund in this? It's different games, right, altogether. So it has a lot of potentials. But the thing is, it's so volatile. And if you look at it in terms of return, okay, so we adjust everything into 100 at November 2017. So that's basically almost the end of last year. If everything starts at the price of 100, S&P 500, gold, and Bitcoin, this is the pictures that we put in perspective, a comparison of returns in its volatility itself versus other assets. You can see it barely changed because, of course, it's just few months. How many months is this? Basically 5 months tops, right? Bitcoins, if you calculate returns, it goes from 100 to 226. Basically, that's 130% rise within less than a month. Then it dropped down significantly to 86. So almost lost the value they start with 100. And then in 18 days, they rise up 50%. So basically, it's huge volatilities compared to our index. So it begs the question of, is it really currency? Of course, I think you all know that it's not currency. But let's look at it with the principle. So what can be currency then? Let me go forward a little bit here. Okay. So what qualifies as currency? If you open up the economy textbook, which is very boring, but it's still true, it needs to satisfy 3 conditions. At the same time, it needs to be medium of change. You must be able to convert it into goods or services or liquidity instantaneously. It should be able to store the value. Then it should be good unit of account. Basically, people quote the goods and services prices with it. Now, I don't have to go forward, but let me ask you whether you think bitcoins or cryptocurrency are satisfying any one of the conditions? Let's take a peek at this. Unit of account? Yes, ma'am.
Oh, sorry. Well, I came from North America, right? In business-wise and investment. And I start to see more like medium of exchange in the cryptocurrency, in the online business.
Indeed.
Like more and more online business accepting Bitcoins as a currency.
Indeed.
Yeah. So I feel like it's fit one of the medium of exchange criteria in this, what you qualify
So
as
it could potentially qualify as medium of exchange because there's some venues or businesses that accept it.
Yeah.
And can be converted into goods and services.
Yeah. And well, I have been following the cryptocurrency movement in North America market, in US and in Canada, and I see that they even the US. I don't know if it's true or not, but you know, like it's the insider news from the different groups that they follow Bitcoin. I mean, they invest in Bitcoin this time. Like the government of US is gonna establish some digital money, like it's called Bitcoin, which is in terms of digital money as well, and will be competitive in the
Probably a way ahead rumors, but okay.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a future.
Indeed.
It's a future.
Thank you for your opinions. Basically, it needs to be good medium exchange. Could Pimsiri say it can be somewhat medium exchange? Let's look at it for medium exchange.
Okay.
Can it be converted into goods and services?
Yes, absolutely.
It can.
What's that?
Absolutely.
Indeed.
Some.
There are some.
Look at the Japanese model. Never mind US and Canada, just look at Japan.
They're more digital savvy, right? Okay, I don't put in Japan because I thought it's American and British kind of commerce. So I thought Japan would be off-putting, but okay. I take your point. But let's take more basic. US private businesses. Of course, Microsoft overstock Subway. Anybody use overstock these days? Are they going very small? Dell computer also getting smaller, except Bitcoins. For UK, I'm not very familiarized with this, but for Thai there's some, but this is very, very small establishments. So for number of businesses for US, over 90 big corporates take Bitcoins, cryptocurrency. Okay. For UK, 520. Thailand there's only about 120 and it's not a big establishment. So at this point can be used for goods and services. Clearly in Thailand, no, not yet. It cannot be used convert. But then the question arises, of course, you can ask, if I'm provider of goods and service, I get Bitcoin and what the hell I do with it, right? Of course you can use it to purchase another establishment that take Bitcoins, but then this is going to end somewhere. Somebody along the line needs to convert it into goods and services or cash. And probably they're looking for cash, they're not looking for B2B business to get another service off the service, right? So can it be converted in cash? If you're in US, there's an exchange, Bitcoin exchange, that convert into cash. There's even ATM that convert into cash. But in Thai, there is none of that. Okay. Well, there's no ATM. There's about 47 ATMs that can convert cryptocurrency into cash. For US, there are about 350 out of 1,500 Bitcoins ATM. So it can be converted to cash, but only in certain jurisdictions. For example, North America is probably more heavy bias. But if you talk about this context in Asia, there's nowhere near it yet that can be converted. Now, store values. Let me show you this. I thought looking at this, it's very fussy, right? It's very banking way. That's why we never related with our customer, because we are thinking like this, which is true. So, very fussy. So let's put it in the perspective of, if I sort of abuse McDonald's a little bit. No offense to In-N-Out Burger, Shake Shacks, whatever. But in terms of Big Mac, how many can you get out of Bitcoins? So let's compare one Bitcoin to Big Macs. One Bitcoin, 1 unit Bitcoins. Right now, I just told you that there's 20 million supply unit of Bitcoins, right? At the beginning of January last year, one Bitcoin can be used to purchase 340 Big Macs. During its peak, you can buy 6,000 Big Mac with it. Then within a few months, it's dropped to just 2,000 Big Macs. And then right now, it can be converted to 3,500 Big Macs. Is this a good store value? it's not, right? It's good for units of accounts. I mean, if you take Bitcoins and if it's this volatile, I'm just assuming this will only consume Big Mac, which they're not. But if it's so, how many times you have to change your menu prices? How many times you have to change your menus or your PO? It's a lot of times, right? Tons of it so volatile, so not exactly a suitable candidate for unit of accounts. Store value, I mean, if you buy it from here, of course you are blessed. But if you buy it from here, I think you're going to have different opinions. So this one is this one. Okay, gotcha. So it's questionable. Medium of exchange perhaps is true. So it's not going to satisfy one conditions more significantly on the medium of exchange part. While for store value unit of accounts, they fail to be acting as a currency. So I think the stance, of course, I am in no authority or jurisdiction to say it's not currency, but economically speaking, okay, let me speak like a nerd, it is not yet, right? It's just medium of change. But then that's it for now. So it's not money. It's some central bankers say it's asset. And okay, for Thai context, in which we have very limited access to ways to convert it into cash, or ways to put into the services, we are not really looking at it as currency. Now, of course, since it's a stream, and then just coming with a tab of a bank, of course, there's a gray services that can use cryptocurrency as mean of payment. But let's not delve into that. But of course, like everything in this, well, can't say life, but all the things that flourish typically comes from the criminalities of things, black economies. If you want to avoid AMLO, FATCA, you guys must be facing FATCA when you go to banks, right? It's not that we want to be interrogating you, but we are also required to do FATCA with you. So basically, black economies is sort of a spur or a catalyst for cryptocurrency. Not that I have ever visited, so no disclaimer, full disclaimer here. But it used to launder money. It is used to evade tax, of course, as very effective tools because it's anonymous, right? And then it used to purchase illegal products. I'm not even sure what it is. Okay. Off the record, I still also don't know. But it started with black economy. But then the thing is, if we end the slide here, it will leave bad impressions of the implication it has. We're not going to be here telling that it's not money. That's the end of it. I think you already know it. Let me ask side questions. Can it go to zero? Indeed, right? Mathematically speaking, if you increase infinite amount of supply, then the entry cost will go down, of course. Then value could go to zero, right? Mathematically speaking. Same thing. Of course, this begs the basic underlying questions. What is the underlying asset that underlines digital currency? If you talk stock, there's a company, right? Whether they're shady or not, SEC is very effective or not, I can't comment. They're just not very far. But US dollars, of course, in God we trust. You have the whole US economy. Right? In gold, nobody buy physical gold. If you buy physical gold, I think you probably have a problem of storage now these days. Of course, you can't really buy it and check anymore because it's all paper-based, but it still has gold as underlying. But then ask yourself, or ourselves, Bitcoin is underlined by what? Like what discussed so far, it's underlined by demand and supply, right? And supply created digital waste.
That's Bitcoin. So, the mining machine, is it called as an asset?
The mining machine is part of the equations because you also need demand for transactions. So you can go back and then ask yourself whether what is underlying? Can it be goods and services that underlies it? Or what exactly that is underlying it is not very clear. So if it's not very clear valuation-wise, it could theoretically go to zero. I don't think that's going to happen, but it could, right?
Would you consider the complexity of the codes as an asset exposure?
The complexity of the encryptions and such. Yes, I think it has a lot to do with it. Of course, going forward, if we have more computing power, this is going to be lower good cost, but they keep on making more complex questions. So I think it's going in relation, hands in hands with the hardware capacity and computation capacity. But all those fancy aside, what is underlined by a certain services, certain goods, certain productions? Is no. So this begs the questions of can it go to zero? I think it can theoretically. Okay. So I have about 15 minutes, if not the most. Let's talk about initial coin offering. It's basically underwriting bitcoins and underwriting cryptocurrency. And the funny part is your own cryptocurrency that you invent. Okay, you're not underwriting or raise fund by issuing coins that belong to others. So, for example, the biggest ICO initial